It's podcast 46 on Tuesday, September 5th.
Hey freaks, how you doing? This is Bob
And Jenna.
And we're your favorite rabid food eaters, back again for another interesting week of vegan radio.
Yes, we're back.
We're back.
Finally.
And so we got a lot going on for today's show.
Yeah, we got some comments about things as always.
We always have comments. That's what we're all about, right?
Exactly.
We're going to talk about some miscellaneous shit, as it's called in our handout here, and on our outline. We're going to talk about a couple articles we found on the internet. The upcoming issue of Satya Magazine we're going to discuss. We're going to discuss a recent issue in the news. You're supposed to talk now.
Oh, okay. We have a segment, Cooking with Dino. And then we have some emails, some voicemails, and that's about it.
Yep. So that's our show. Why don't we just move right into this, man?
Okay.
So the other day, we're coming home from work. Mm-hmm. And we just decide, spur of the moment, to go to Ottawa. Right? It was just like real sudden. We were just coming home and like, fuck it, I want Chinese food, we're going to Ottawa. So, and you know, Ottawa's an hour and a half from here. So we just kind of went, you know, and I know that we're supposed to get in touch with people in Ottawa, and I apologize. It's my fault. I just did all of a sudden, you know what I mean? And it was like, we're just going over, and it was going to be like just for dinner. So we ate at a restaurant in Ottawa called So Good, and it was so good.
It was. I kept saying during the meal, I'm like, this is so good.
It is so good. We had what they call pepper salt tofu. And it's like it was like a soft tofu that was breaded in this like amazing kind of breading, and it had hot pepper in it and salt, and pepper,
black pepper, I think, or white pepper maybe.
It was like white pepper. Mm-hmm. It was so fucking good. I thought I was just gonna pass out. It was so good. Like it is. If anyone ever tells me they hate tofu, I'm going to take them to that restaurant, and I'm going to make them eat it.
It was amazing.
It was amazing.
The texture was perfect. The flavor was perfect. It was just incredible.
It was really, really fucking good. It was great. There was no question about it. It was like tremendously good.
Yeah, and I even heard other tables who weren't ordering vegetarian items order this tofu. So
it was really good. So yeah, I wanted to say how good that was. And if you live in or around Ottawa, you should go eat it. And if you are in Ottawa for any reason, go there. It's really good food.
It is. And it's not all vegan, but it has a separate vegan menu, or vegetarian menu.
Yeah, so. It's good. It's good. So I just want to say how good that was. And, you know, it's not good for you. You shouldn't eat a lot of fried food. But it was so good. Oh, my. No, really. It was like a little, I don't know. It was like a foodgasm. It was great. So, yeah. That and, you know, I'm starting school, you know, I'm a professor, I'm not a student, in case you want to know. And one of the things I have to do, and I don't really enjoy doing, but I had to do was I teach a first-year class, and part of our process here of orienting first-year students into the life of our university is that they get to know their professors well during their first year. So I had to go have dinner in the dorm with my students. And it's weird for them, and it's weird for me, you know what I mean? And I don't really want to be there, because I don't think I should be in a student's dorm, you know? Like, why should I? It's their life, I shouldn't be interfering. But regardless, they did have vegan food. They had, actually, most of the spread was vegetarian, except for these really nasty-looking, wrinkly, gross, greasy-looking sausages.
Ew.
They were so they were, like, all wrinkly. They were disgusting.
Ew.
And, you know, I was thinking, who the fuck would eat that? And people were eating it, though. But we were in line, and I was talking to one of my colleagues, another professor, and, you know, she's saying, oh, wow, look at all this. Looks like a lot of vegetarian food. And she's like, I was saying, this is good because I'm a vegan. And she said, oh, wow, you're a vegan. I know another vegan. So we started talking about veganism. She knew a vegan on campus. I didn't know, which is very strange.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And another professor there said, yeah, you know, it's possible that you don't know a vegan on campus. Maybe they didn't take your class. So, and then another professor comes up. He's like, geez, why are they feeding us all this rabbit food? And it was salad and pasta and like a bean salad and the wrinkly, disgusting sausages. So, like, I don't get what is rabbit food about that.
I know. It's not like pasta is some completely foreign dish in the United States. I mean,
no.
People eat pasta all the time.
Yeah, I don't really get. So I guess people want, like, red, dripping, gross steaks or something. I don't really know.
That's bizarre.
So I said,
because there was only one meat dish. Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. So I was like, well, I'm actually kind of grateful for the rabbit food, being that I'm a vegan. So, and he knows I am too, because he's reviewed my syllabus before, but he probably didn't read it. Because one thing I know about faculty, they don't read. No, in general. No, they do, but not always. So anyway, that's just some shit going on in our personal lives. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
How come you aren't talking today?
Because you have the stories. I had the stories last week.
Well, I'm done.
Oh, so am I. I don't know. My life's been, work, not work. So.
Well, that's been my life too, but we have articles to talk about.
We do.
And you're just sitting there looking at me.
Sorry.
Like
okay.
I'm on crack.
I've been talking all day, and now I'm kind of like, Well, so have you.
Also
I
did
know.
electricity.
I know. Okay. Well, our first article, that's kind of interesting. It's called "Ancient Raptors Likely Feasted on Early Man," study suggests. And of course, we bring this up because of the argument that of the food chain that always comes up.
So we were actually running.
Right. Yeah. And we've talked about different studies before that talked about the fact that maybe our skills developed because we were being hunted, not because we were hunters. Mm-hmm. But this is a different study. And it says, a new study suggests that prehistoric birds of prey made meals out of some of our earliest human ancestors. Researchers drew this conclusion after studying more than 600 bones from modern-day monkeys. They had collected the bones from beneath the nests of African crowned eagles in the Ivory Coast's high rainforest. A full-grown African crowned eagle is roughly the size of an American bald eagle, which typically weighs 10 to 12 pounds. Punctures and scratches on many of the monkey skulls have led some researchers to rethink which animals may have preyed on our human ancestors, said W. Scott McGraw, the study's lead author and associate professor of anthropology at Ohio State. It seems that raptors have been selective force in primate evolution for a long time, he said. Before this study, I thought that eagles wouldn't contribute that much to the mortality rate of primates in the forest. I couldn't have been more wrong. The results may also have important implications for the mystery surrounding the death of one human ancestor who lived about 2.5 million years ago. Oh, but that would mean that we've evolved.
We don't evolve. What are you doing talking about evolution? That shit's crazy, man. We did not evolve, okay? We came directly from the flying spaghetti monster.
That's right, and his noodly goodness.
His noodly appendage. That's what keeps us on the face of the earth, right?
Indeed. So their evidence is that archaeologists discovered the skull of a 3.5-year-old ape-like child in a cave in South Africa in 1924. Researchers believe that this child, called the Tong child, had been killed by a predatory cat. But McGraw said that the puncture marks on the monkey skulls he examined closely resemble those found on the skull of the Tong child. Eagles leave very distinct beak and talon punctures around the face and the eye sockets. The skull of the Tong child had these same kind of puncture marks. So interesting. Being hunted by birds.
I remember reading another book about running too. That we are essentially animals that are built for very quick runs, like sprints. We're good at. That's kind of what we're ready for. Mm-hmm. And longer distance running is something that requires more training on our parts because our history is like, okay, here comes something to eat me. I got to run. Mm-hmm. So I always hear that food chain argument, but that kind of bothers me because it's like, well, no one ever talks about the food chain when humans are eaten by animals.
Exactly.
They always go out and kill the animal.
Yeah. It's natural for us to eat the animals, but not to be eaten.
Of course.
So you must kill the thing that ate the human, or that attacked the human.
I know. And people always talk about this natural shit too, but, what is natural in our world? Everything is already constructed in a sense, It's like we don't live in a natural environment in any way like our ancestors did. Mm-mm. Our ancient ancestors, our prehistoric ancestors, the ones that, according to those who believe in intelligent design, hung out with the dinosaurs 3,000 years ago.
Yeah, that's how it went down.
Yep. So,
that was interesting.
We used to be eaten.
Mm-hmm. Some more evidence being found that we were eaten.
Another interesting thing is that Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter, has passed on into the great crocodile chase in the sky, I guess. I don't know. I know. I originally, when I heard that he had passed, that, now of course I'm going to couch it by saying I of course feel badly for him, for his family, for those who loved and cared about him.
Mm-hmm.
But I generally did not think of him as a character that did good things for animals.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think it's really all that cool to go out and wrestle crocodiles and stick your fingers in their bums and do whatever it is that he used to do. But apparently, according to our forums, there's a big back and forth about this going on in the forums. Some people say that he had a zoo. Some people say called it an animal concentration camp. Apparently, depending upon whom you ask, he's done a lot for animals, or he has tortured them, tranquilized them, and taken them to a zoo. So it depends. And he also had some pretty non-creative excuses for not becoming a vegetarian. So I don't know. I mean, I thought it was worth mentioning because what he's done has always bothered me, in a sense. Using animals for entertainment, wrestling them out in the wild, tranquilizing them, doing that kind of shit. I just think it's stupid.
Yeah, like, I mean, you could tell that he did care about the wildlife and everything, but at the same time, like, he would go and pick up these animals and basically fuck with them. Yeah. And that just didn't seem right to me. Like, capturing snakes and holding them up for the camera and, wrestling with crocodiles and...
Well, I mean, apparently he has done quite a lot for animals, right? He has helped a lot of different animals, and one of the things I read said he even went as far as to help a frog, at his little zoo or sanctuary or whatever, or clinic. And I think that's cool, but I don't know. I mean, I'm really divided on it. Him aside, I'm really divided about the kind of stuff that he did. Like, I think the stuff that he did good for animals is great, but I think using animals for entertainment is a problem. And I think that generally across the board. And I think that, it's just the way I feel about it.
Yeah. I mean, does someone like him make the type of zoos that we have here? Like, there are some of these kind of tiny, tiny zoos where they have crocodiles, and then you go and then there's just like this tiny little place for them to swim, and it looks gross. And there are a lot of these places throughout, the United States of various animals, not just crocodiles. And you wonder if those places become more popular because of shows like his, where these animals are kept in captivity. And like, oh, I saw crocodiles on the Discovery Channel. Now I'm going to go see them in this place. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I think is really interesting too is his excuse for not being a vegetarian, which someone who did this, VA Matt, quoted on the forums here. And I want to just kind of plug into that. He says here, have you considered becoming a vegetarian? It's an interview question. And he says, I went through a big stage of my life where I thought, maybe it would be better to be a vegetarian, so I researched it. In no uncertain terms did I research it. Let's say this represents one cow, which will keep me in food for let's say, a month. Now that cow needs this much land and food. Well, you can imagine that cow needs X by X amount of land, and you can grow trees in it. Around that cow, you can have goannas, I assume that's how you say that, kangaroos, wallabies, and I would like to add... crazy wild dogs that might eat my neighbor's children. Anyway, I'm just hoping. Yeah. By the way, no one sent me my grenade launcher yet. You can have every other single Australian animal in and around that cow. If I was a vegetarian to feed me for that month, I need this much land and nothing else can grow there. Herein lies our problem. If we level that much land to grow rice and whatever, then no other animal could live there except for some insect pest species, which is very unfortunate. And you know what's very unfortunate? His fucked up, flawed, pathetic logic.
Yeah,
that's what's fucked up.
A very false dichotomy.
It's a ridiculous argument because he's saying that, if I'm going to eat a cow that's grazing on this land, other things can live there. But that's crap, because who eats cows that are out grazing in the middle of nowhere? Most of the hamburger and shit like that comes from animals that are intensively feedlot farmed. And that requires just as much land or more land to produce the feed to feed those damn cows than anything.
Exactly.
So he's just looking for creative excuses around it. And I think that kind of stuff is, pretty annoying. So I think, okay, maybe he did some good things and that's cool. And it's sad that he passed on. I'm not reveling in his death. It was a big molding run. I don't know if you could hear it or not. I'm not reveling in his death, but I do think that what he did generally was despicable. With animals for entertainment. Yeah. What he did on the side, cool. If he helped animals, that's fucking awesome. But if he made a career out of going out of his way to bother animals who were in their natural habitat, I don't think they need to be fucked with.
I agree.
Good. I'm glad we agree.
But you know what is interesting?
Yeah.
Is that it seems that in Australia there are just way more interesting ways to die than there are in other places. Don't you think?
I think so.
I mean, we were watching this other show on Discovery or TLC or something.
It was Discovery.
It was about these little tiny jellyfish that can kill you.
Yeah, they're tiny,
really tiny.
Like the size of your thumbnail or something,
Yeah,
right?
like you
or
can
even smaller.
sort of feel them brush past you, and they're like, "Oh, what was that?" And like 2 days later, you're dead.
Yeah.
There are just many scary ways to die in Australia. And there's like the whole outback, and that's scary too. And there's dingoes eating babies, and
I want dingoes to come to Colton and eat our neighbors' babies. Yeah, I know. But then we could talk about the food chain, right?
We could.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't go eat your baby. But
yeah,
that's the way nature is.
Yeah. So if I go to Australia, I'm definitely not going in the water. Sharks, all kinds of shit. There's all kinds of shit that can kill you.
If I have to go to Australia, I'm bringing a dingo back home. And a grenade launcher. I'm trying to get those on a plane really easy.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, I'd like to check my dingo and my grenade launcher. But, it wouldn't be good to take a dingo out of its natural habitat.
No, it would not.
So just to eat my neighbor's babies.
Well, we got coyotes. Maybe a coyote can eat their baby.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping for that, but the coyotes around here are a little small.
They are. It's sad, though. They do eat some people's dogs.
They do.
And cats.
I know. I didn't mean to laugh, but it's just someone once told me that one of my students said a coyote ate my dog, and he said it in a way that was kind of jokey, and I laughed.
It sounds absurd.
I know. From where I'm from, you don't like. Okay, where I grew up, it's like you don't hear someone say, "Yeah, a coyote ate my dog."
You're like, nah. So. Yeah.
Speaking of class, though, I wanted to add one thing to segue away from the crocodile hunter before we lose all of our listeners.
Okay.
I was in class and we were talking about kind of the development of human, not intellect, but our ability to use language and to understand the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking about this critical period in human development when, if humans don't have the amount of attention and love that they need during that period, and they aren't socialized correctly, they can never be socialized, right? Like your brain literally cannot function correctly in a socialized environment. Mm-hmm. And I was saying about how this is also proven true for many animals. And I was talking about the experiments that behavioral psychologists do on animals, like, the one where they took a wire monkey and electrified it, put electrical current through it. And they took baby monkeys, separated them from their mother, put them in a cage, and then watched what happened when the baby would go hug the electric mom. They use this to kind of see just how strong the instinct was in baby monkeys to have a mother. And the students were so appalled by it, And it is an appalling thing, but this is a very common, this kind of research is very common, right, with primates, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And I thought, man, here's a moment where people are feeling very uptight about that. I wish I could have gone further with it, but it was cool. I was team teaching with a colleague of mine, and she kind of pushed it a little further, which is cool. So,
very cool. Well, at least now they know about it, and they didn't know before. So
that's true.
Opening some, hopefully thinking about it.
Opening some doors?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think. I think they probably like, ooh, that's horrible. And then they just,
whatever.
Yeah, when am I going to get fucked or have more beer? Oh, come on, it's college,
yeah,
right?
It is.
So, what else do they do?
Not much.
Yeah. Not a whole lot. Actually, the better students do work.
Yes, they do.
So, anyway.
All sorts of varied noisemakers.
I love noise.
Yeah.
I'm actually reading a book about it by this guy named Bart Kuskov called Noise.
That's right.
It's very geeky, though. I mean, the book actually talks about kind of the physics of noise and goes into Gaussian curves and such shit. Unless you really like math, I wouldn't read it. Okay, and I don't really like math, but it's still interesting. Anyway, let's move on.
All right.
So, one thing that's kind of cool is that Satya magazine is coming out soon, the September issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now, I'm not just saying this because I have an article in it, but this issue coming out soon looks really kick-ass, I have to say.
Yeah, it does.
Even if you exclude my article.
Indeed. And it looks like also, besides you, Veronica, who I mentioned last week doing the Receipt Project, she's featured in it as well about vegan artists.
Good interview with her in there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's a lot of stuff in it. I think Peter Singer has an article in it.
Eddie Lama, I think.
Eddie Lama has something in it.
The guy from...
the dude from Farm Sanctuary has something in it. What's his name? Gene
Bouston.
Yeah, he has something in it. I have something in it. I don't. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there, and what the whole point I think of the issue is, or my sense of it, I haven't read every article, is to look at how some of this kind of emerging debate over welfare versus liberation, in a sense. And I think it's a really powerful issue. I think it really will do a very good job of kind of thinking about some of these issues in a careful way. So I was pretty pleased with that. I think it does a nice job presenting both sides and kind of thinking about it. And I think it'll be a really fabulous issue. My article aside, even. I mean, I'm not even trying to pimp my own shit, because it kind of makes me a little nervous to be in such a league with people who are like well known. And here I am, little old me, with my one crappy article in there. It's like, I don't know. But yeah, you should listen to the show now, because probably after people read the article I wrote, we won't have many friends.
Well, it's just one opinion. You don't have to agree with us to listen to our show.
No, of course you don't, but it helps. Well, I mean, otherwise we'd be really fucking annoying, right?
Sure, I would imagine. But I don't know. Some people have a higher tolerance for listening to things they don't agree with than others. For example, I cannot watch George Bush on television. I have to either turn the channel, I have to at least give him the finger, even though, of course, he's never going to see me give him the finger through the television. I just can't stand to listen to his voice.
Go fuck
but other
yourself,
people
Mr.
can,
Cheney.
Lefties can sit around and watch Fox News. Like, how can they do that? I don't get it. My blood pressure would go through the roof.
It was like that time that Dan from Abolition Radio came to our house. He was here, and he was sitting on our couch, flipping around the channels. He's like, "What? You don't get Fox?" I'm like, "We get it. I turned it off because we can adjust the channels we receive in our box." So I turned off like Fox News, and I of course have ESPN turned off, and the Food Network, because I don't want to see fucking Bobby Flay or any of those assholes grilling dead things, So I have all that stuff turned off, and it was like when your parents were here. Your dad's like, "Where's ESPN?" I'm like, not here, because I hate sports. So I'm basically your average anarchist, communist, Marxist. I'm a whole bunch of different things, but I'm like a pinko, I'm just not into the American apple pie and all that crap. I do like apple pie, though, but I'm not into America, so I'm un-American.
Yes, you are.
So anyway, the upcoming issue of Satya looks very good. You can see some of the articles on their site, satyamag.com, and you can, of course, subscribe. It's good to support these independent magazines and things like that.
Definitely.
So not a bad thing to do. Mm-hmm. I'd be curious to hear what you all think about my article. If you've read my blog, our blog, veganfreaks.org, this article is just a modification of something that appeared there before called The Odd Logic of Welfarism. Some of you liked that article, some of you hated it. I think it generated a lot of comments, as I recall.
Yeah.
Some 60 or 70, I believe.
Wow.
Comments. Unless thinking of another article, but that's possible. So anyway, let's move on.
Okay. Something else that's been in the news recently, you may or may not have heard. It's been played a lot on sort of the lefty radio stations that we listen to a lot over and over again. Michelangelo Signorelli. I think I've heard it on XM a few times.
It's made it. Actually, it's been on CNN and stuff, and on the Daily Show.
Yeah,
and all that. So,
and about what's his name, running for Senate in Virginia.
It's George Allen. He's a Republican running for Senate in Virginia, and it's kind of an interesting little thing that happened. There was a guy from the competing campaign taking video of George Allen, and George Allen had some very interesting things to say, and I think I'll roll those.
Okay.
My friends, we're going to run this campaign on positive, constructive ideas. And it's important that we motivate and inspire people for something. This fellow here over here with the yellow shirt, Macaca, or whatever his name is, he's with my opponent. He's following us around everywhere. And it's just great. We're going to places all over Virginia. And he's having it on film, and it's great to have you here, and you show it to your opponent, because he's never been there and probably will never come. So it's good for you to see what's out here in the real world. Rather than living inside the Beltway, or his opponent actually right now is with a bunch of Hollywood movie moguls. We care about fact, not fiction. So welcome. Let's give a welcome to Macaca here. Welcome to America and the real world of Virginia. My friends, we're in the midst of a war on terror.
So, Macaca, as he referred to him, was a person who worked for their campaign. He was of Indian, as in victims of British oppression, not victims of American oppression. Anyway, victim of British oppression. Indian, right? And I didn't even know what the hell macaca meant. Like, I've heard of a macaque monkey, my cock. Oh, such a child. I've heard of a macaca monkey, but a macaque monkey, but I had no idea what a macaca was. And so, of course, it has become obvious to me. But Wikipedia, as always, has an interesting take on the macaca as a slur. It says macaca, also written as macaque, is a dismissive epithet used by Francophone colonials in Africa for native populations of North and Sub-Saharan Africans. It is also sometimes used as a code word in the white power movement to refer to blacks and other non-Caucasians. It is derived from the name of the genus comprised of the macaque primates. So, of course, it talks about the usage and how it's still in use in some places like, in Belgium and things like that. And it also talks about here the macaca and the George Allen campaign incident and things of that nature. So what I thought was interesting about this was, a Republican being a racist.
Oh, my God.
I'm so shocked.
Yeah.
I would never have believed it. Never.
No. Especially one that has Confederate flags supposedly hanging all over his office.
Oh, the Confederate flags, though? Those are part of a flag collection.
Oh, yeah.
That has 3 flags in it.
Yes. Confederate flags, the American flag, and what else?
No, 2 Confederate flags and an American flag.
Right, okay.
It's his flag collection.
Yeah, okay.
He also had a noose in his office.
Neat.
Yeah, a noose.
Okay.
But it wasn't meant that kind of noose.
Oh,
not for hanging,
not for lynching?
Not for hanging black
okay.
people off of trees, you idiot. No.
What was it for?
Oh, you don't get my cricket
Oh, I'm
noises.
sorry, I didn't put the crickets in the soundboard.
Oh, damn you.
Sorry, I forgot.
There should have been crickets there.
Okay.
Well, who knows? People use nooses with 13 loops in them all the time for various things around the house.
Right, okay.
I've got a lot of nooses around here. I mean,
right, yeah. Okay.
Whenever I need to, let's see, lynch black people? No. What? So anyway, the reason I want to talk about the whole macaca incident here, I just think it's such a fucking stupid term too.
Yeah.
And okay, here's this guy George Allen, right? Who is in fact so insulated that he doesn't even think it's a problem to call somebody a macaca.
No, and welcome to America.
And welcome to America.
Yeah.
I know. Did he not think the guy had the guy had a video camera. He was making fun of the guy with the video camera. Did he not
Apparently, he thought it was okay.
But that's a problem, right? I mean, he was that much of a racist and that much of a white supremacist fuck that he thought that was okay. But the thing that I actually thought is kind of interesting about that is that it's the ways in which these kinds of oppressions are overlapping, right? I mean, here's a racist term that is also an animal. So essentially, what we're doing when someone does that, right? It's this kind of double oppression, right? Someone's is simultaneously being oppressed because of their race, but also being put down to this level of an animal. So those two things together are very problematic. And I wanted to kind of talk about that briefly because I think The Dreaded Comparison, Human and Animal Slavery by Marjorie Spiegel, which is a brilliant, if disturbing book at times, does a really nice job of talking about this. And on page 30, she says, further, any oppression helps to support other forms of domination. This is why it is vital to link oppressions in our minds, to look for the common shared aspects and work against them as one, rather than prioritizing victim suffering. And she says here, for when we prioritize, we are in effect becoming one with the master. We are deciding that one individual or group is more important than another, deciding that one individual's pain is less important than that of the next. And she goes on to say that, comparing the suffering of animals to that of blacks is offensive only to the speciesist. And so in a way, I guess I just wanted to kind of reflect briefly on the kind of speciesist aspects of this. I mean, not only is it a racist thing to do, but it's also a speciesist thing to do.
Right. The reason it is so offensive is because you're calling someone an animal.
Well, yeah, but that's not the only reason. But I mean, it's like that's one of the reasons and how these things all kind of fit together.
Exactly.
And how horrible it all is.
And when people bring up the dreaded comparison or things like Eternal Treblinka comparing, the slaughter of animals to the slaughter of Jews in the Holocaust, people get upset by that because, they think that, oh, well, you are putting us down to the level of animals. And of course, that's such a speciesist way of seeing it. Yeah. And that's why so many people get so upset. And you're like, no, that's not the point. Right? The point is that it's all oppression. Right. And that, it's similar methods of oppressing people.
Absolutely. Yes. And animals. Well, she goes on to say here that those who are offended by comparison to a fellow sufferer have unquestioningly accepted the biased worldview presented by the masters. To deny our similarities to animals is to deny and undermine our own power. It is to continue actively struggling to prove to our masters, past or present, that we are similar to those who have abused us, rather than to our fellow victims, those whom our masters have also victimized. So this is really kind of an interesting way to tie some of these issues in. And it's just horrible. I mean, the guy's clearly a fucking racist, you know. And he'll probably win. He's a Republican. You know? It's like we were listening to this David Cross, the comedy, the other day, and he's like, you know, I would never believe that all Republicans are racist. You know, I don't think they are. It just happens to be that they always vote for the most racist people to represent them.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, well, maybe he'll get bounced out for that, but who the hell knows? So,
who knows?
All right. So if you have thoughts on the macaca issue, we'd love to hear them. You can always get in touch with us. If you have thoughts on the crocodile hunter, you can always let us know. Yeah. Apparently the last thing he did before he died was pull the stingray barb out of his heart.
Yeah, apparently it all was all cut on video. It was just kind of morbid.
I'm surprised that's not out anywhere yet. You think?
No, I think it's the government is holding it until his autopsy or something. So.
Wow. Yeah, it says it right here. It's a very hard thing to watch because you're actually witnessing somebody die, and it's terrible. It shows that Steve came over the top of the ray, and the tail came up and spiked him here in the chest, and he pulled it out, and the next minute he's gone. Wow, man, that's rough.
It is rough, especially because apparently stingray, when you get hit by a stingray, it's usually not fatal.
And it's, it's rare anyway, right?
Yeah, it's rare unless you really mess with them, and apparently it got spooked. They think it got spooked because the cameraman and he was there.
He's probably trying to put his finger up its bum.
And, it went right in his heart. That's bizarre.
Yeah. Very strange. Let's move on.
Okay.
So we have a, did you put the Dino segment
I did.
in? Oh, you did. How lovely. We're working on a new setup this week. So
yes, we've got a few more technical issues to work out here, but we're getting there.
We're getting there, yeah. My computer it's just decided to like put on Depends and shit all over itself every week. No, really. It's just like, it's decided to go to the nursing home and it's given up on life. It just sucks at life. It's just sitting there going, shitting on itself. So I know. I'm an ageist. Kill me. I'm just a dick. Anyway, let's we can do the Dino song.
Yes, we have to.
Dino, we who cook with Dino are the luckiest people in the world.
Hi everybody in Vegan Freak Land, it's Dino. This week it looks like Bob has a little bit difficulty with his audio setup, so I'm just going to record a segment and send it in, and if you have any questions, as always, you are free to email me at diva@veganfreak.com. I got an email from Glitterous asking how to make a dish called Chole Bhature, which is in essence, it's a puffy, squishy kind of bread with a chickpea type of thing in the center, and it tastes really good. And it seems complicated to make just because in the Indian restaurants, they usually use the spices separately. So if you ask the chef how to make it, he'll rattle off this long list of spices. You'll get confused, and it's not worth the aggravation in your eyes, so you figure, let me just go eat it there. Unfortunately, a lot of Indian restaurants use ghee in their food, so that's not very vegan, so I guess I'll show you how to make it more easily at home. And the thing about Chole Bhature that you want to bear in mind is that you essentially have 2 or 3 stages of cooking. The initial stage is your whole spices, the second stage is your aromatics, and the third stage is when you add the liquid ingredients to the aromatics to sort of deglaze the pan and get all the flavors inside there. Now, I also made texturized vegetable protein for Steve, who as you guys might know, is my husband, and you also may know how I feel about what I deem to be omni-substitutes, and TVP is a really big one in my eyes, so I refuse to touch the stuff, but I love Steve dearly, so I decided to make this for him, because he hasn't had any in a really long time, so threw it together for him. The easy part about this is that the TVP recipe and the Chole Bhature are pretty much identical in their bases. There's just a couple of ingredients and cooking techniques that are slightly different in each one, and I'll go into those when I give you the recipe specifically. So first off, let me start off with the chole part, which is in essence garbanzo beans. How it works is that you start off with a wok or a large stock pot or some kind of large cooking vessel, and you start it off with some oil. And you want to get your oil fairly hot enough so that like a little wisp of smoke escapes the surface of it. Then you throw in about a half a teaspoon to a full teaspoon of cumin seeds, and they're going to pop and explode, so watch out for them. As soon as the cumin seeds are popped, throw in about a tablespoon of ginger, a half a head's worth of garlic that you've minced up really finely, one large onion that you've minced up really finely, and about a teaspoon of turmeric powder. Now, stir everything around in your pot and turn down the heat to medium low so that your spices don't burn and so that your aromatics don't burn. These are your aromatics. You want to let it cook there for about 5 to 10 minutes or so, or about until your onions are softened. Once your onions have gotten softened, go ahead and add a teaspoon of coriander powder, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon powder, 1 teaspoon of clove powder, and about a small tiny little shaking of nutmeg, 2 bay leaves, and as much chili powder as you can possibly take, because we all love chili powder, of course. Generous sprinkling of salt, some pepper, and I like to add sesame seeds because it gives you a little nutty crunch in the middle. That's a personal preference type thing. You don't have to do it if you don't like it. Now, if you can't quite keep track of all these different spices on your own, I want you to go to the Indian store and ask for a spice blend called garam masala, where it has all these spices, including the bay leaves and everything else, already there. So all you have to do is throw in a tablespoon of the garam masala and you'll be set. It's really easy that way. So like I said, we start off with the aromatics, which was the ginger, the garlic, the onion, and the turmeric and stuff like that to get it cooked in the fat. And then now you have the other spices with the garam masala. Once you're done adding the garam masala to the oniony base, I want you to add 2 large tomatoes that you've roughly chopped up to it. And you're still over the medium heat, right? So now you start stirring it around, and during the course of about 10-15 minutes, the tomatoes are going to start to break down and form this sort of gravy around everything pretty much. It'll form a really thick sauce, and it's going to start smelling incredible all throughout your house. Once you've added the tomato and the tomatoes have broken down in there 5 to 10 minutes or so, I want you to add about 1 pound's worth of cooked chickpeas. Easiest way for me to cook chickpeas is to soak it overnight in water, and the next morning pop it in my crock pot and let it cook while I'm at work, so that by the time I get home, everything's done. And it's just a question of, throwing together that base with the tomatoes and the spices really quickly at the end of my work day. So since my chickpeas are already cooked, it barely takes me like 15-20 minutes to throw together a delicious meal. Anyway, so once your tomatoes have broken down, I want you to add in 1 pound worth of chickpeas with the water that they cooked in. Why discard it if it's already got some of that chickpea flavor? Turn up the heat to as high as it goes on your stove and let it come to a full rushing boil. Once it's come to that full rushing boil, drop it down to a simmer and let it cook for about another 5 minutes or so. And your chickpeas are done. They're ready to eat at that point. Now, if you don't have a crock pot and you have soaked your beans overnight, just go ahead and add the soaked beans to that tomato base and then throw it into your oven at about 300 degrees, covered, of course, for about an hour or two. It should get them fairly well cooked. If it doesn't, drop down the heat to 250 degrees and let it go for a few more hours until it gets completely done all the way through. Once you're ready to serve it, sprinkle on a generous heap of coriander leaves, also called cilantro. They're relatively easy to find fresh, so definitely throw that on top of there. If you don't like coriander leaves or you don't like cilantro, you can use parsley as well, but it won't give it that authentic Indian flavor, but it will still give you a flavor that you like if you don't like cilantro. Now, the TVP that I made looked creepily like beef. Steve said that if it weren't for the fact that the food did not smell vile while it was cooking, he would have sworn that it was meat. How I did my TVP was that I soaked it in hot water for about an hour, and then I put that pot of hot water and the TVP in the fridge overnight to let it soak completely. The next morning I took it out of the water and drained it and then pressed it down to remove the excess water. I lightly sauteed the TVP chunks in oil. For me, we had about I would say about a pound of the reconstituted stuff ready to go, so I I sauteed it in about like 4 or 5 tablespoons of oil, and until it gets lightly browned. Then I took the TVP out, added onion, garlic, and the tomato, just like I did with the chole bhature, and the same exact spices, only this time to give it a darker brown color, I threw in about a teaspoon or so worth of soy sauce, stirred everything around, and let it cook with the tomato base, the same exact tomato base that we use for the chole bhature, I used for the for the TVP, and let it cook in that base for about 20 minutes over medium heat. Now, what happened is that the tomato and the spices and everything else got completely permeated into it, and it started smelling just outstanding. It was interesting because Steve took one helping. I had him test it for salt, and he was like, "Wow, this is really good." But he just ate it all by itself instead of eating it with anything. Now, once your TVP is done, you can have it either with bread or rice or possibly pasta if you have it. And the cool thing about it is that you can use either the small chunks or the large chunks. I use the large ones in this case. Steve posted a picture of it on the forums, so if you guys are on the forums, you can definitely pop over there and take a look. And now you guys have the recipe, so you can make it at home too. Another thing to remember about these kinds of dishes is that if you want it to get more flavor and you want the flavor to be more concentrated, cook it uncovered so that the water evaporates and it becomes more intensified. Just keep an eye on it so it doesn't get too dry in the pot and, burn or anything. Just watch it. The other neat thing about the chole bhature is that if you have extra, fat chance of that happening. If you have extra, you can combine it with some lemon juice and some water and have a really wonderful salad dressing, which is what I have done before. Or if you don't add the Indian spices and you use olive oil instead of regular cooking oil like vegetable oil or sunflower oil or peanut oil, if you use olive oil and just the sesame seeds and maybe some paprika, you have a really easy base for hummus. It's pretty much cooked, and so it's just a question of flinging it into a food processor and pulsing it a few times, and you're ready to roll. So there you go. Definitely go out there and experiment with these recipes, and maybe if you want a more hearty meal with the chole bhature, maybe add some carrots or some potatoes to it and make it a more filling meal in and of itself. As for the bread, it's a little bit more complicated. I'll definitely get into it in another podcast segment, but for now, at least you have 2 really excellent recipes to have under your belt and to experiment with. Tell me about your experiments at diva@veganfreak.com and give me all your questions, and I'm more than happy to answer them. Thank you guys. Bye.
So now our cast iron skillets are treated and our ovens are all preheated. Throw away that fake meat, it'd bring out the vicious wrath of Dino. Vegan freaks love Dino, 'cause he sure can cucino. Grazie, Dino.
And that was our
Squisito.
fabulous Dino.
Indeed. Now I'm really, really hungry.
I am too, actually.
I love chole.
And just my mom, whenever I talk to her on the phone, she's like, "How's Dino?" It's like Dino lives here, right? How's Dino? She's like, "How's Jenna? How's Dino?" So that's cool. We love Dino and Steve are awesome. So I'm so happy that you guys are together, and it's just so cool.
Definitely.
And all that food sounded amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you can be looking for Dino's cookbook coming out sometime this fall.
Mm-hmm.
And one other thing I didn't talk about recently is we've got 2 other books in the works for next fall, but it's worth getting them in your imagination.
Yes.
One of them is by Joy, and she does some completely amazing food. Her cookbook's going to be kind of heavy on desserts, but also going to be international flair.
Mm-hmm.
And tentatively going to call it The Joy of Vegan Cooking, but we're still looking into the trademark issues.
Yeah, we may get sued about that one.
I've got some folks looking into the trademark issues on that, so I'm not real sure if it'll end up being called The Joy of Vegan Cooking or not. But so Joy's coming out with what looks like to be a fabulous cookbook. Mm-hmm. We're going to publish that through Tofu Hound. And Claire from our forums is writing a book about being vegan, being a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep, it's amazing. We've gotten some really fabulous proposals, and these are among them. So, and now we can't afford to publish anything else. So,
Nope.
Not for a while. But I think Dino's book will sell well enough, and I think all these other books will really do well, and we'll be able to publish more down the road.
Yeah.
So,
and an updated version of Vegan Freak is coming.
There will definitely be an updated version of Vegan Freak. It was very interesting today. A student of mine came up to me and said, "Hey, I wanted to tell you, I was in the airport on my way to Spain, and I saw somebody with a copy of Vegan Freak, and I went over, and she said, I said to them, you must be from St. Lawrence University, which is where I teach." Should I have said that?
I don't know.
Who cares? It's easy enough to find. You Google me. It's
all right. Yeah. Okay. Anyway,
she said, "You must be from St. Lawrence University." And the guy looked at her like she was on crack. Because we don't mention St. Lawrence in the book.
No.
So, that's pretty cool. And then another friend of mine told me that he has recently found a romantic interest in Ottawa. And she's a vegetarian and had also read Vegan Freak, but before she knew he was associated with our university.
So funny. And today I went to the farmer's market to pick up our CSA share. And the guy we had our CSA from was like, "I picked up your book and read it." And he's
still talking to you.
He's still talking to me, and he thought it was interesting. And that he wants to make sure that we get our green leafy vegetables so that we stay healthy.
Cool.
So I'm like, well, it's all good. So
that's awesome. So there you go. We got a lot of stuff going on here at Tofu Hound Press. And, of course, you can always get Vegan Freak or Dispatches from Hell, Dan's book. These things are always available. Amazon, or why would you go to Amazon when you could buy it right from us? Mm-hmm. Or from us, or from fine retailers like Cosmos.
Mm-hmm.
Cosmos, yeah.
Cosmos.
I had an interesting email exchange with Ken recently. It's very interesting. Ken from Cosmos. So
yeah, Cosmos rocks.
Yeah, definitely. They're cool.
And I always get my orders really, really fast. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is fast.
Amazing. So yeah, good stuff.
And Herbivore just opened a new store in Portland.
Yeah. Right now just a storefront, but very cool. So if you're in Portland, go check that out.
And of course, there's Pig's Peace in Washington State.
Washington State, cool.
Yeah, they carry our books too.
Mm-hmm.
They apparently go through a lot of our books.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So, Humanitaire. What's the place in Colorado?
Cruelty Free World.
There you go.
So we're available everywhere, except Canada.
Yeah, Canada's been difficult.
You fucking Canadians, Jesus! No, we can't get a distributor.
Yeah, but you can order from the U.S. and have it sent.
You can, but we can't. We don't have Canadian distribution.
Yeah.
We've got. This is how absurd it is. Okay, Canada is like 15 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
A little more, maybe. As the bird flies is 15. Mm-hmm. We have no distribution. Yet, we have distribution in every country in the European Union.
Mm-hmm.
That's fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
The European Union is 5,000 miles away. Canada, 15, no distribution.
We can walk it over ourselves. I guess they want.
Well, then we'd have to pay duties.
I know.
Duties are duties.
Because NAFTA is not for us.
NAFTA is not for you. You discover that very quickly. Yes. It's like free trade, movement of goods and people. No. Not unless you're a fat capitalist. Fat cat capitalist is what I meant to say. Fat cat. All right, so moving on. What do we have now?
Emails.
You've got mail.
Okay, let's see here. Cialis? No, don't need that. Bigger bus size? No. Free iPod. Oh, it might do that. Oh, are you pleasing your woman? Well, you better ask her. Oh, well, what's this? Vegan Freak email? Vegan Freak email. Yes.
Okay, our first quick email here comes from Socialist Vegan. I've been vegan for 2 months now, and I finally had that epiphany moment about 2 weeks ago. I officially went vegan after spending the June 26th looking into the situation of farm animals. About 2 weeks ago, I was working at the restaurant where I work. Yes, it's omni-nasty, but I live in Northeast Ohio, and there isn't much choice in the way of restaurant work, but I digress. There was a shitload of ham sitting on the counter in a pan, and as I stand there looking at it, I could almost see the pig it was before. I wanted to fucking vomit. Anyway, since then, I've noticed I've become much stronger in my veganism. Before this moment, when people asked if I was...
We're cool.
Okay. If I was going to ever eat meat, I was wishy-washy. Now I'm like, fuck no, and flaunting how happy I am being vegan.
Nice.
Just curious if you guys ever had this kind of moment. Keep up the good work. Viva la revolución vegetariano.
I agree. I've had those moments a lot of times, actually,
yeah.
Where I feel really repulsed by it, or the smell bothers me, or I just look at it and go, that was a someone, not a something.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I think that's a really important step in becoming vegan. Not so much vegetarian, but becoming vegan and seeing what Carol Adams calls the absent referent.
Yeah, man.
Right. Making that connection between that piece of meat and the animal that it came from. I think it's so important.
It is very important. And interestingly, I was talking to a student and friend of ours today, Heather, who became vegan about a year ago. And she was saying, that if she wants to eat cheese, she had this cheese issue. And she said that she just one day decided there was pus in cheese and that everything that went along with cheese was something she wasn't down with and she didn't want it anymore. So it's like that connection is really important to make, I think, for people who are going to stay vegan.
I agree.
Cool. So now what? Another email?
Yep. You got some over
I
there.
have this one. Okay. Hey, Bob and Jenna. I love listening to your podcast almost every week, and I wanted to tell you how much I appreciate you guys putting such hard work into it all the time. Well, thank you. There aren't really too many vegans around here, so listening in makes me feel like I'm part of a pseudo-community. It makes vegan life so much easier. In this week's podcast, however, there are a couple things I want to respond to. Number one, not all Prius drivers eat meat or do it for status. My boyfriend, who is vegan, drives a Prius because it has a really neat little computer in the dashboard. There's a camera on the back that shows you what's behind you when you're in reverse. It's really fun. You can make movies while driving around.
Oh, that's cool.
And as a guy who likes gadgets and charts and things like that, I can appreciate that. Right? But it has become a status symbol among the left. The liberals. But anyway, I'll leave it be.
Okay.
Number two, Bob, I was wondering how your trip to Louisville went. Judging from some of the language you used, like Jesus landed Kentucky, I guess it didn't go very well. Did you check out any of the vegan restaurants? It says PF, but it's OF. Any of the multitudes of record shops, art galleries, skateboard shops, vintage clothing stores, or weird little coffee shops? Kentucky really doesn't suck. It just gets a bad rap from just about everyone. And yes, I guess there are lots of Christian types around, but both Louisville and Lexington are liberal meccas in the state with exciting and vibrant cultural art scenes. I'm sorry you didn't like it. I did eat at Zen Garden, which is really good. That was really enjoyable. But I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just an East Coast liberal elite or just a fuckhead or something. But I was in the part of town where there was supposedly all this cool stuff, and it just wasn't cool.
Either it was just hard to find, apparently.
Yeah, it can be hard to find.
Yeah, that's the thing about a lot of cities are just so spread out that it's really hard to find. I mean, like, I like going to places like Toronto where you can walk everywhere, or you can go to a neighborhood. Well, not walk everywhere, but we walk a lot of places, and you go in, like, into a neighborhood and you wander around and you're like there, and there's a lot of stuff.
So you mean like in downtown Toronto? Yeah.
But, of course you can't walk everywhere. Toronto's huge.
Right.
But there's just a lot of cities that are so spread out. It's just like you can't find cool things that are gathered together.
That's kind of how I felt about Louisville. I mean, I didn't have a lot of time there, so perhaps my judgments were a little too swift. However, I don't know. I'm just whatever. So yeah, perhaps I was wrong. Number 3, regarding the rodeo story from Houston, I apparently did something very similar when I was a kid growing up in Houston. My parents took my brother and I to the rodeo, quote, for fun, because it's what everyone did. During the calf roping stuff, I apparently got really upset and started screaming, "No, no!" My parents looked at each other and laughed, completely shocked and surprised. When I wouldn't stop, they took me outside to ride the carnival ride instead. I don't really remember this incident, but my mom told me about it a couple weeks ago when we were discussing veganism. She said that she and my father weren't surprised at all when I went vegetarian last year and vegan this year. I think it's wonderful to hear about kids making the connection between entertainment, in quotes, and animals completely on their own and being able to vocalize their feelings. Hopefully these tantrums will get other people thinking about the atrocities of things like rodeo and circus as well. Anyway, that's all for now. Thanks so much again for your devotion to the online vegan community. Peace. Ellie? Eli? I don't know. One of those two. So anyway, cool. What we need though is that there's that critical period when kids are growing up when they can identify with animals. We need to make sure that that kind of ethic doesn't go away. That they keep thinking in those terms rather than being convinced it's just whatever. You crazy little kid.
Exactly. And most parents just dismiss it or like force the kid to get past it and just eat meat. Even though a lot of kids don't like it.
There you go.
Ow.
Am I going now or are you?
The dog just bit my foot.
Well, you're over there paying attention to him. I mean,
all right.
We've talked about this before.
I know. I can't pay attention to the dog during the podcast.
Not while we're doing the show, because he gets needy.
He's very needy. He wants to be pet.
I know. Emmy's going to come in and start bullying him around.
Yes,
They're going to get into a fight, and it's going to be a mess.
Yes. Okay. I won't pet the dog
and
anymore.
You have started it all.
I did.
Bad Jenna.
I know.
Bad Jenna. bad.
But earlier during Dino's segment, he fell asleep and
Yeah,
he
he
was
was dreaming.
dreaming. It's so sweet. I always want to know what animals dream about.
Apparently, Molly was dreaming about running because
Yeah, he was moving his paws.
in exactly the way he runs. So. Oh no, these
cute.
two are going to
No,
fight
don't
under the table.
start.
Don't let them.
Don't start.
Okay. See, you got this all.
I
You put
know.
this particular thing in motion. You're going to get them not to fight. I'm going to read the next email.
Okay.
This is from Tony. And Tony says, Bob and Jen, I just thought you might be interested to see the school menu from Spotsylvania County, Virginia. A coworker whose child attends school there passed it on, and it's discouraging. I don't expect anything vegan, of course, but tuna salad and fish sandwiches are listed with a V, symbol for vegetarian. Chartwell's School Dining Services manages school lunches for the county badly, as I think we'd all agree. And so he provides a link to it, and it says here the high school and middle school lunches are the same with the fish as having a vegetarian indication. And I went and looked at the menus, and it does, in fact, have, like, fish and shit like that as vegetarian.
I know.
Like, hello? Fish does not grow on a tree. In our book, actually, if you go to the index, there is an index entry called "Fish is not a vegetable." It's all
in
caps.
caps, yeah.
And what the fuck? Do people not understand this? Vegetarian.
Yes, vegetables.
Like, I think vegetarians should just eat meat anyway. I mean, really, because if you're drinking milk and eating cheese, it's just... Actually, here's an interesting thing, just to get to talk about that. This colleague of mine said to me the other day, she's like, I've been thinking about this vegan thing. So what do you mean? She said, well, I was thinking about it, and I think I used to be a vegetarian, and she said, there's really no halfway with animals, is there? She could, because if you're a vegetarian, you're consuming milk and dairy and eggs and all this other stuff, and you're essentially supporting the exploitation of animals, right? So she's like, if you're a vegetarian and you're a vegetarian, you care about this stuff, and you're still eating this stuff, it's like you're still promoting all of it. So she's like, really, the only way, if you care about the critters, is what she said, is to go vegan. I said, couldn't agree with you more.
Indeed.
Her son's a vegan, so
Cool.
she's down with it.
Nice.
And I thought that was a really interesting way to approach it. And I think in some ways it's like what I think a lot of vegetarians don't recognize is that there is, in fact, a lot of suffering and death in things like milk and eggs. You know, for those eggs to be produced, little tiny baby chicks are ground up or suffocated. For the milk to be produced, veal has to be produced, right? And this is the same with organic milk or any other hippie shit out there that you like, you know, that people so love. It's the same. So maybe, you know, I think vegetarians, it's a good step in the right direction. But Eric Marcus makes a really interesting point that, you know, if you're going to be a vegetarian, it's almost less cruel to eat meat than it is to drink dairy.
Yeah, that overall beef cattle get treated way better than dairy cattle.
Well, no, not even.
I mean,
that.
because of the veal issue and because of the way that the dairy are confined.
But if you look at eggs, for example, right, the abject suffering in eggs is really it's amazing. And it's way out there. And if you look at, I mean, what Eric Marcus does is kind of have this way that he compares suffering, which is really strange. It's hard to do, right? Hard to compare suffering, but the way that he compares it, he says, look, you know, one animal, 2,000 pounds, provides quite a lot of steak. It's one death, you know. Whereas you have a chicken, how many thousands of chickens are killed for chicken and for eggs, right? It's thousands and thousands of the suffering is compounded. So his argument is almost to say to vegetarians, like, think about what you're doing, you know?
Right.
But to get back to this, even in any regular conception of vegetarian, meat is not, you know, fish is not a vegetable. I don't understand. This drives me bonkers.
I know. Well, I remember growing up and, you know, during Lent, the Friday meal was sometimes pizza, but a lot of times was fish sticks.
Well, it's the Catholic Church, right?
Yeah, it's like, well, no, I thought we're not supposed to eat meat on Friday, so why is it you serving me fish?
Fish sticks.
Yeah.
I used to like those.
Yeah, I did too.
But
now I find them vile.
They are kind of vile, aren't they?
Yeah, they smell bad. Ugh,
Yeah. I'm out of emails.
Okay, I have one more.
It's all on you.
Okay, this one's comes from Sarah. She says, "Hi, vegan freaks. I was a quote-unquote uneducated vegetarian for 15 years, speaking of what you were just telling me about, and I've been vegan for about 6 months. I love your podcast, and I also love the fact that I can download past releases. I was listening to the podcast...
You can thank subscribers for that.
Yes, you can. So we
Actually,
can pay for the bandwidth to keep them all up.
That's right. Subscribers let us do that. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay. I was listening to the podcast on January 18th, 2006, and you were talking about using animals in vet schools. I know that you discussed this a long time ago, but I had a comment/story to share with regards to this issue. When I first became vegan, I became aware of the same topic on another vegan forum. Right around the same time, I had to make the horrible decision to put my dog of 9 years to sleep. She was a rescue and was about 5 when we got her, so we think she was about 14 or 15. In her old age, she developed dementia. We did everything we could for her, giving her the best care and love. As she got older, she began to attack inanimate objects, eventually turned on my other dogs, attacking them, and ultimately attacked me. She was quarantined, and I knew we had to put her to sleep, for my own safety as well as hers. This was obviously very hard for me. This brings me back to the topic of using animals in vet schools. I began to wonder if I could possibly donate her body after euthanasia to a vet school. I thought, I'm an organ donor. Why can't she be one too? I thought this would be a perfect solution. It would be one less animal killed for education purposes, and my beloved dog would have contributed to the greater good in some way. However, when I contacted the only vet school in my area, UC Davis, I was told that they already had enough dogs. This shocked me. I mean, how could they possibly have enough dogs? They are telling me that they have enough to teach future vets forever? Although the man who took my call was nice and helpful, I couldn't help but think that if the option of willingly donating your pet... sorry. I lost...
I'm usually the one with that
I know.
problem.
The option of willingly donating your pet vet school were accessible, like if it were recommended by your vet, or if when you get a new vet you can sign up your animal as a donor, just like people do when they get their driver's license. I think pet owners would do it. I was wondering what you thought about this idea. Thanks for listening, and sorry if I babbled on about my doggie. I miss her dearly. Of course. In the end, I fought to have her released from quarantine so our vet could do a private cremation rather than spend the last moments of her life being scared and put to sleep in the shelter. She now has a special spot in our home. That's so sweet.
Sad.
Yeah, it is sad. So thanks again for your great work in spreading the vegan message.
Well, thanks for writing. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, it would prevent a dog that you know is already dead rather than having to kill one for the purpose.
Are you okay? You're looking a little
that made
teary.
me sad. I always get teared up with these stories.
Yeah.
So
no, I understand, but I think it's a fine idea. I mean, it'd be great, and that way, you know, it would probably give pet owners this idea that okay, you know, it's allowing little Muffy or whatever to kind of live on in the air, you know, live on in some other capacity, or to help other animals, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of course you wouldn't have to do it. I mean, it would be you know, something that you could do should you wanted to, and yeah, I don't know. That's a potentially good idea.
I guess the reason that it won't happen though is because there's so many shelter kills.
Yeah, I know.
You know, millions of animals are actually just like discarded.
I know.
So that's probably one of the reasons why it would never.
Yeah.
Or there might be resistance to it for that reason.
Yeah, maybe.
It's sad.
It is sad.
It is really sad. Millions of animals killed every year in animal shelters.
Mm-hmm.
It's humanity's fault.
It is. We breed them and then people get rid of them.
People get mad at me because I think that killing animals in shelters is wrong. But I don't know. I can't support it. I mean, I can't. Here's the thing. Could anyone honestly, rationally, and civilly argue that we should take care of human overpopulation by killing everybody? Like, we should kill all the extra brown people in the world who are hungry and starving, because it's a better life for them if they're dead. No one. I mean, can anyone argue that with a straight face?
No. I don't think
Some
so.
people can. White supremacists.
Mm-hmm.
And some really, really, hardcore zero growth advocates, and probably Republicans and libertarians, people who enjoy the free market, things like that, right? Those people can all argue it. But I mean, realistically, though, that's not the sort of thing we'd ever make an argument for with humans in any serious way. Yet we're ready to make that exact same argument for animals, right? We're ready to say, well, we have too many animals, so let's just off them. It's a better life for them if they're dead. Mm-hmm. How do we know that? You know, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of out there on these issues. It's strange to be on the margins of a community that's already on the margins. Like, I'm on the margins of the
Is that the same guy that went past earlier?
You know, there's this fucking asshole who lives around here who has no life, zero life, who drives his motorcycle around the neighborhood, right? Around town.
And town's not real big.
Town's not real... Well, the township is very big, but the town we live in is not big. So I think that's him. He does it all the time. You just don't hear it because your office is in the back of the house.
This
and
is
the
true.
studio in my office is in the front of the house.
Right.
Anyway, what was I ranting about? Who the fuck?
Shelter kills.
I'm not going to go there. It gets people upset.
Okay. But of course, the answer to this is get your dogs and cats spayed or neutered.
Thanks, Bob Barker.
And make sure you get your dog from the shelter and encourage others to do so. Because a lot of people don't even consider it. They're like, oh, yeah, I guess I could. Yeah. So, you know, I've heard a lot of stories, people talking to their families or friends and convince them to go get a shelter dog rather than buying one.
Fuck yeah. And, you know, there are plenty of great dogs in shelters.
There are.
There are some fucked up ones, but there are plenty of great ones,
yes.
too. And we have a great one right here.
Yes, she's so great. Right.
She's cool.
Yes. She's awesome.
One of the secretaries in my building was feeding her treats today, and I couldn't get her to come back to my office. I was like, "Come on, Emmy, time to go." I had an appointment. She's just like leans against the secretary's desk because she wouldn't come. So that's enough.
Smart. Okay, wait.
What? What?
I have one more thing to mention about the email.
Do it.
Okay. We've gotten a lot of emails in the past, and most recently one from Duck in Houston about soy. And there's a lot of things going on about, is soy healthy? Is soy dangerous? Is soy good for you? How much soy should I be eating? And there's a lot of sort of murky science out there about soy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I didn't do any research on this, so you have to talk.
Okay. And I found one source that, apparently this woman named Sally Fallon has put across this article that says, soy is as bad as hemlock. Okay, last I checked, hemlock will kill you.
Like what Socrates drank?
It's more insidious than hemlock, is what they say. Okay, and they put across the many, many arguments as to why soy is bad for you.
Are they going to make us eat soy for poisoning the minds of the youth of America?
Apparently.
Like they did they made Socrates drink hemlock for poisoning the minds of the youth.
So, but her website happens to be realmilk.com. Okay. So a lot of the stuff that you find around the internets is put across by the dairy industry.
The internets.
Of course, and groups like Center for Consumer Freedom.
Yay!
Dean Foods, all those people.
That's why we don't buy silk anymore.
Right.
Fuckers.
Yes. There's just a lot of misconceptions about soy. So I wanted to point people to a website that answers a lot of these misconceptions, and it happens to be by John Robbins, who wrote The Food Revolution and Diet for New America. And he goes through and sort of debunks the myths of this article by Sally Fallon.
But isn't he just a hippie? Just a member of the so-called liberal media? Huh?
Well, that, would be a lot of arguments. But, because he wants people to go vegetarian. But he has no... he might want people to read his book. But what other reason would he have, for doing this? He doesn't get money off of people buying soy.
Sure he does. Yeah.
So, anyway.
He probably has soy stock.
Maybe, I don't know. But anyway, he goes through all their arguments and debunks them. And basically, and does it in a really interesting way. He says, okay, well, yes, soy may have X property, but it doesn't do the things that they say it does. So it's really interesting, and it's really long, so I'm not even going to bother starting to go through it.
You put link in the show notes.
I will put link in the show notes. And you always have to be careful with these kind of studies when you read them. You have to pay attention to who's paying for it, of course, who sponsored the study, who's done the study, and what are their methods. For example, there was one in the news that I can think of recently that said soy isn't as good for you as they thought it was. It wasn't. They didn't say it was bad for you, but they said it wasn't as good, at the things that people say it could do, like reducing heart disease, blah, blah, blah. But, they never mentioned in this article, it was more of a summary of an article, it was in the New York Times, if the population that they looked at, did they eat meat and soy? Did they still eat, a high percentage of fat in their diet? They didn't say these kinds of things. So you have to look at for those kind of things, like what's the population? What are the methods? So who knows?
I keep eating soy. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, it's like anything. You shouldn't be eating it for every single meal, every single day. You should. I
drink soy milk. I eat tofu every so often.
Yeah, the point. One of the points John Robbins makes in this article is that Asian societies have been eating soy for thousands of years and it doesn't seem to do a whole lot of damage to them.
There you go.
So, you shouldn't eat it everything. And if you're really, really worried about it, drink soy milk sometimes, drink rice milk sometimes. Vary. Yeah. If you're really worried about it, but it's not, unless you're allergic to it.
But how much soy? Some vegans, I guess, rely on it a lot, but I could live without it.
Yeah, sure.
Really? Mm-hmm. Although that pepper and salt tofu.
Tofu scramble.
Tofu scramble. You can't really do almond scramble. It doesn't quite work.
But.
So are we done now with the email?
Now we're done. I'm sorry.
No, it's great. I'm glad you talked about that because we get a lot of email about it.
Yes, we do.
And I think it's worth discussing. Mm-hmm. Oh, Jesus. The dogs are going bonkers. Emmy's in here dribbling her ball. Emmy she loves tennis balls like more than life itself. So she picks up these tennis balls and she'll drop them out of her mouth, and then they'll bounce on the floor. And she'll pick them up. So she dribbles tennis balls around the house. She loves tennis balls. Anyway.
Drop the phone, it'll save you a tenner. Send an email to Bob and Jenna.
The lovely rat and cat.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
Time once again for some vegan freak voicemail. Maybe we'll hear from a hot chick.
Or a choice male.
Callers make us happy and help us keep our sanity, even if all they wanna do is fucking complain about the shitload of profanity.
Hey, Bob and Jenna, it's Angry Duck from the forums. I just want to call it a couple of things. The first one is it's a quote from the National Cattlemen's Association that I found in a Prabhu Gandhi cover, but it's still really good. It says, activists fall into 4 distinct categories: radicals, opportunists, idealists, and realists. The 3-step strategy is to 1, isolate the radicals, 2, cultivate the idealists and educate them into becoming realists, then 3, co-opt the realists into agreeing with the industry. The realist should always receive the highest priority in any strategy dealing with a public policy issue. If your industry can successfully bring about these relationships, the credibility of the radicals will be lost, and the opportunists can be counted on to share in the final policy solution. And that's by Robert Dutchin at a National Cattlemen's Association conference. And I don't know how old it is, but I think it really says a lot as to how we as a movement need to work. Because the industry's way of dealing with pressure from the animal rights movement, is to isolate, radical liberation politics and use welfare as a way to, make everyone content for a little while, feel like they've done something. So you got to recognize that and not be afraid to be radical and not just accept that compromise. And I don't know, I just think it speaks a lot to how the folly of welfare, welfare isn't going to work as a solution to our goal here. The other thing I wanted to talk about is honey, because I went to a sandwich shop yesterday, and it prides itself on being like this vegan bagel place, and they've got all this vegan shit. So, like, they still got like dairy and fish and stuff there, but like they're they say vegan bagels. So I go in there and I was like, yeah, I'll get like a whole wheat bagel sandwich thing, and I'm wearing a big shirt that says vegan right on it. And I stepped aside, and my friend goes, are these these are really vegan bagels? They're like, yeah, all our bagels are vegan except there's the Asiago cheese bagel, and the whole wheat bagel has quote honey. Like, she has the quotes on her fingers. I was like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, honey? Like, yeah, they're like, well, it's vegan, but some people are just like, no, I don't want that fucking bagel. Like, give me a fucking normal bagel. And so then the lady who's making the sandwich just starts ranting. She's like, honey's not a big fucking deal. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, who's getting hurt by honey? And I was just like, fuck you, lady. So, I step aside, get my new bagel, and it just ruined my whole meal. And I was just like, what the fuck do you care if I don't eat honey? Because I'm a fucking vegan, so just get the fuck over it. Like, and I don't know, aside from pissing me off, like, that's what they always say. Honey vegans are just people who don't give a crap about honey, or always like, it's not hurting anyone, it's not a big deal. But they're not the ones who have to deal with that when people just assume that I eat honey, which, we don't, because it's a fucking animal product. Like, I don't think there's any way to convince me that bees are not animals. So, there you go. Anyway, love your podcast, and great work and everything. So, yeah, take care.
I want the duck to have my babies.
Okay.
I just agree. I mean, I asked you to have my babies. You told me no.
No, I did. I don't want to have anybody's babies.
I don't want anybody to have my babies.
Okay,
no, yeah, man. I think he's right, and I think one of the other issues that comes up is that anyone who argues against the welfarist stance that is now the standard out there is always dismissed as some kind of idealist, right? You're just some fuzzy-headed idealist, and you're putting your own politics above animals. And I think, we need to have a movement we need to have a vegan movement that looks like what we want. And if we're in a vegan movement advocating the consumption of animals, advocating nicer torture, we're not living the way the movement should be going. And I don't care who I offend with that. I don't care who I annoy with that. That's the way I feel.
There you go.
As for honey, I wish it weren't an issue.
I know. Like if you had said, "Oh, I'm allergic to honey. I can't have it." The woman never would have given you a hard time because you say you don't want to eat it, and of course that means that you're a wacko.
That's like the restaurants who, refuse to help you when you tell them you're a vegan, or versus when you tell them, "Oh, I'm allergic" or something, right? It's just fucking annoying.
Yes, it is.
Yep. I hate people. And speaking of people that hate people, here's Mike.
Hey, Bob and Jenna, this is Mike from the forums again. I was calling to comment on what you'd said about American Apparel. And I agree wholeheartedly that it's our notion of ethics is being marketed to by these scumbags. And what's going to be done about it? Is anybody calling for a boycott? And if so, what grounds are we going to boycott them on? I mean, so much of what's marketed to vegans is made by scabs or, scumachula assholes like ConAgra. I mean, really, where are we going to draw the line on this? I'm all for calling for a boycott, but, I mean, shouldn't we include, like, union-busting assholes like Whole Foods? And I hate to open that whole can of worms because I know a lot of people love Whole Foods because they can get their fucking, vegan chocolate chip cookies there that they can't get up the street or whatever the fuck it is. But, I mean, what kind of ethical grounds are we going to boycott them on? I mean, look at Macbeth sneakers, just for an example. Macbeth directly markets to, like, the punker, vegan, rebel, and all of us, and they do it really effectively. I mean, they put their sneakers on jerkasses like Blink-182. They put vegan on the label. They make them in a sweatshop in China, and we buy the fuck out of them. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to buy an American Apparel shirt again, but I just wonder if there's going to be any kind of, like official boycott called on this. Well, talk to you guys later. Bye.
Well, who would be the official boycott caller?
I don't know.
Well, I'm not going to buy American Apparel again.
Me either.
I think a boycott's perfectly acceptable. I think we should call for one. What the hell? I mean, I guess the question, though, is, where do you stop, right? Do you stop anywhere at all? I don't... That's a tough one.
Mm-hmm. But I think, if a company's going to profess these ethics, we need to hold them to their standards and say you have to pay attention to labor as well. You can't just dismiss labor, and you can't be union busting. Exactly.
That's what I think. And I've always, you've heard me rant about Whole Foods, but that's my problem with Whole Foods is like I have so many problems. I don't even know where to begin. The beginning of this Satya article actually has this whole list of people who love Whole Foods signing a great letter saying how great they are in their humane treatment of animals. But it's like, what the fuck? You're killing animals and eating them and making a fucking profit off of it. How is that humane? Like, yeah. I can't wrap my head around that. It makes my head want to fucking explode. Right? So even if they treat their animals well, there needs to be a kind of recognition of the overlapping oppressions that are taking place.
Mm-hmm.
Animals are being oppressed through this system. Human workers are being oppressed through this system. We need to fight both kinds of fucking oppression. And I think, if Whole Foods busts unions, that's a problem because unions are what gave us the 5-day work week, 40 hours a week.
No child labor.
No child labor. Actually, I think child labor is a good idea. Let's hire children. These are the things that the labor movement has bought us, and these are the things that are being eroded very gradually by various administrations, both Republican and Democrat, over the years because they're on the side of capital.
Mm-hmm.
What do I think? I think that what you said, we need to call these companies on their ethics and let them know, okay, this is it. I don't know. I certainly try to speak and write about these things as much as I can. As for an official boycott, I don't know who would call it. I have no problem calling for a boycott of American Apparel for the things that they do. Certainly feminists have called for a boycott of American Apparel for using sex in their marketing. But, I don't know where that would come from. Where do we draw the line? It's tough. My thinking on the issue is that I try to buy what food I can locally,
Mm-hmm.
I try to support local growers and local farmers, and I think that's really important because, first off, I know the people who are growing my food, some of it, and it supports the local economy. So I know where what I'm doing in that way. We can't always do that for the things that we can't do that for. We try to buy the most responsibly we can, and that's part of what we do.
Right. But I mean, with this whole question of veganism is that a lot of people think, oh, well, I can't be perfect, therefore I won't do anything at all. You can do what you can,
Yeah.
You can do what's feasible. So, okay, well, it's easy enough not to buy American Apparel. It's easy enough not to buy things from Whole Foods.
I think so, too.
So,
I completely agree. On the other hand, though, I don't want to reify the idea that all the power that we have in society comes through what we do and don't consume.
True.
You know what I mean? What we do and don't consume is important. I mean, that's what veganism is essentially about.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to make broader statements about these things and to talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mike, that's a good question. I would love to hear your thoughts on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I do in class when I can't answer a question. Let's see if it works on the podcast. I'm going to throw a ball because Emmy's over here going to bother me. Now I'm getting Emmy involved here.
Now it's your fault.
There she goes. She'll be back. Next.
Bob, Jenna, greetings from Phil in Tucson, Arizona. Love your podcast, man. You guys are great. Here on the website, though, I can't get in. It says we're locked out till September or something like that. So it is September. It's like 12:30 here now. But anyways, I've been a vegan for like 7 months, and I can only say what took me so freaking long. You know what I'm saying? But did it for health reasons after reading the China study and eating for new ethics of eating, and just. But lately, come around to the animal rights issue and the environmental. Really have feeling kind of righteous about that side benefit, on top of everything else. But anyways, you'll be jealous. I'm in Tucson here. I'm like 2 vegan places within a short bike ride from here. So both are pretty good. Not top notch, but pretty good. And I don't know. I guess that's it. Tucson's very progressive. So I like to think that I'm the only black bisexual vegan corporate attorney in town, but really probably only because that there aren't that many black people here, you know what I'm saying? But hope you guys keep up the great work and keep up the good energy, and I'll definitely try to get in here as soon as you open the site back up. So take care.
Awesome, Phil. Embrace that, man. Embrace it and run with it.
Yep.
It's really good to hear too that that it's a good place for you.
Mm-hmm. And we did open up the forums, so you can register now.
We may close them again in a while.
Yeah, it was nice. Everybody that was on there got to know each other.
Yeah,
and things went well.
Well, it helped us kind of regroup too as a group of moderators and just get things sorted out. But we're open again, so stop by if you want.
Yep. Come register.
And thanks, Phil. It's really nice to hear from you and to know that we're speaking to you and that it's working out for you, man. I'm really glad.
Awesome.
And I'm glad you're also discovering the animal rights side of things.
Definitely.
I think a lot of people come to it from a variety of angles, and then they feel more comfortable moving into some of those arguments about animal rights that maybe weren't comfortable before.
Mm-hmm.
So, cool.
Exactly.
All right. So, this one looks good.
Hi, Vegan Freaks. I wasn't going to call. Well, I wanted to call earlier. This is a drunk call, for real. But I left my phone inside, and I was outside, and I was like, I'll just do it later when I'm sober. But then I was just listening to your newest podcast, which I must say, all night long at work. I deliver pizza, and my name's Patrick, by the way. But I deliver pizza, and I load your podcast on a CD, an MP3 CD, and I listen to them all night long, and it makes my night awesome. I'll just say that. Thanks, guys. You guys are rad. I only started listening to you like 2 weeks ago. I became a vegan 2 weeks ago, and you guys are awesome. It makes which could be a hard task very easy. Thanks, guys. But tonight I had a terrible night at work, and I was just trying to chill and listen to my podcast of you guys, and I went inside and updated it, and there was a new one. I was so happy. I was going to call and leave a message, but I left my phone inside, and then I went inside and started making some delicious 15-bean soup. Patrick's special 15-bean soup is the best you'll ever have. I'm going to have to give Dino the recipe. It's so good. But then Bob, you egged me on. you said I get extra credit for making a drunk call. So you know what I had to do? I had to pick my phone back up, go outside, and make a drunk call. But honestly, vegan freaks, my business partner is a vegan. I was actually ex-vegetarian for a long time, for years. I was a vegetarian for 3 years. I don't want to give up milk. Yeah, that was me. But 2 weeks ago, I just decided to start listening to your guys' podcast. I'm a vegan now. I love it. It's I feel great. Thanks, guys.
Awesome, man. Extra credit. You get extra credit. So,
yeah, I don't know what happened with the crackly there. Yeah, it wasn't like that earlier.
That was you.
I edited it. Sound fine.
You edited these.
It sounded fine earlier.
It's your fault.
I don't know. But
Blame Jenna.
Patrick called back later when he was sober, so now we have another voicemail.
Hopefully this one won't be all staticky.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's something. Let's see. Is this...
Okay.
What is going on here?
I don't know. Technical difficulties.
Oh my god.
It was fine a second ago. Now what?
I don't know. I'm just going to play this one from a different player and see what happens.
All right.
Hi, Bob and Jenna. This is Patrick, the pizza driver. I'm in San Diego, by the way. Greatest of all the cities in America I've lived in, except for the conservatism. I just heard a really great story on NPR, which I know you guys don't always like, and I understand why, because it is rather biased. But it was about India and how they're basically making affirmative action for the caste system or caste system. My wife's a copy editor, and she would correct me, so I should say caste. And it sounded like a bunch of American angry white males, like me. Oh no, I'm so privileged, but it sounds like a minority might get the same privileges I might get. So, oh no, I might have to actually work hard. I'm so fucking sick of people of privilege making a big fucking deal when somebody who doesn't, someone who's not of privilege, gets the same opportunities they do. I may be a libertarian capitalist, but god damn it, I'm fucking sick of the elite privilege saying, oh no, I'm not getting the rights I should. No, fuck you, elite privileged. The rights... I don't need to say anymore. You guys understand? I don't think you play this on your podcast, but gosh, Bob and Jenna, I would appreciate it if you would make a point of maybe pointing out how, and I think you're a college professor in the Midwest, or I'm not sure where you're at. I think Pennsylvania.
New York.
But just point out how it seems like the privileged... This is like your I have to stop while I use up your space. Just say something about that. How the privilege is always for like, oh yeah, give the underprivileged their say, unless it takes away my privileges too. Because I'm fucking sick of that. I'm fucking sick of the privileged not willing to give up their privileges so the underprivileged can have privileges too. Thank you. San Diego rocks. Bye.
I completely agree. By the way, that 15 bean soup recipe, get that to us.
Yeah, really.
Come on, man.
Yeah. Share.
Call and let us know what that recipe is.
Uh-huh.
I agree with you with the question of privilege. I mean, it's no secret that a significant number of the students I teach are quite privileged.
Mm-hmm.
And many of them are open to these ideas, but some of them find these things kind of problematic. The issue is that we have a society which is set up such that, when one fails in our society, the assumption is that one has fucked up, right? If you aren't rich, successful, beautiful, whatever you want to add into that, people generally assume it's your fault. But if you take a child who is born in, say, Darien, Connecticut, which is one of the most wealthy suburbs anywhere, versus a child who's born, in Harlem, right? Mm-hmm. You have two very different accesses. Two people have very different access to different kinds of opportunity and resources. And so what we have is a society that doesn't even ever pay attention to that. And when we do pay attention to it, it's always seen as some kind of subversive thing. So,
right,
I agree.
Right, we're not allowed to talk about class or race or any kind of thing like that.
And
that's why animal rights is. We're not allowed to talk about these animals. Well, they're lower than us, and that's the whole thing with Katrina last year. Is like why it was so impacting because it brought up those issues. It showed the underbelly there of the United States, and it showed how we are not paying attention to these problems.
Well, that's it. I mean, had those people, been somewhere, had those people been in a wealthy suburb somewhere, or had they been somewhere like that, the government probably would have been there. Had it been Kennebunkport, right? The government would have been there. And the other thing is that I did a roundtable not long ago that actually Colin, who did a book review last week, was at. He was nice enough to attend when I was in Canada speaking at a huge conference of various professional societies, and we talked about race and ethnicity in and class and the whole problem of Katrina. And someone said, well, why should we even bother rebuilding that area? And a colleague of mine who was on the panel with me said, look, if this were to wipe out some really wealthy area of the country, there would never be any question about rebuilding it. But suddenly it wipes out a poor community, and we're thinking about that we shouldn't be rebuilding it. And it's kind of a double standard going on there. Anyway, I think you're right about privilege. It's frustrating, and I think it's one of the things that keeps this country so unequal.
Mm-hmm.
Is our inability to deal with privilege, and our inability to actually create a foundation for what I think is a just world.
Indeed.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's what I think. But what do I know? Let's see if this works.
Okay.
Wow. Está jodido.
Yeah. I don't know what happened there. Great.
Man.
Technology.
Yeah.
Apparently our new setup isn't as great as we thought it was.
That's weird. I have no idea what's going on here. How about this?
Now it works. Why does it work now?
I'm playing it from a different place.
267-295-1944.
Write it down.
Write the number down on your refrigerator door. Add the 001 country code if you call us from Vienna. That's how you leave a voicemail for good old Bob and Jenna.
Do leave us a voicemail. We'd love to hear from you. We always do. We do.
We do, indeed.
We don't always respond to every email. We try to write to people or get them on the show or things like that. Don't forget, if you had a voicemail on the show, right? Weren't we giving out buttons for voicemails? Do we have for emails too?
Yeah, sure. If we read your email on the show.
There you go. If we read your email or voicemail on the show, you can send Jenna your email address, jenna@veganfreak.com. Don't send it to me. I'll lose it. I should take a picture of my office. It's a fucking ad. It's just a shithole.
Yeah, and I sent some out, by the way, and there are a lot more people sent me their addresses. I haven't gotten to those yet. So I will.
We send them out once a week or so.
Yeah, so I will get to them.
We get there. But if you're a subscriber and you haven't sent us your address, you need to. And if you send us a voicemail and we play it, and you need to send us your address. And if you send us an email and we play it or read it, you need to send us your address. And
if you're just a general donator, yeah.
Yeah, if you've donated. We haven't had any donators in a while.
Okay, then most people are subscribing now.
Donors. Or we haven't had any organ donors in a while. We don't want your organs.
Nope.
Not unless they're really nice. I don't know. I'm a fucking weirdo. I want to play this. I don't know what is wrong. We have a soundboard program here. I actually bought it with my money. It doesn't work. That's so not right.
No.
That works.
What? I don't know.
Fuck me. All right. Anyway, we're done with the show.
Yeah.
And it's good because my neck hurts.
So.
It's because I'm holding up these big ass headphones on my head and bending over into the microphone.
Well, we're done now, so you can go relax your neck.
No, I have to do another podcast.
Oh, for your class.
For my class. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm doing podcasts for one of my classes. One student was like, I think everybody should take your lead, Bob, and do more podcasts. Wow. So actually, it's their assignment to go listen to to my podcast, which is not this one. Yeah. I don't want them listening to this. Actually, I have this site blocked from the university. They can't even access it.
Separate worlds.
What?
Separate worlds, I said.
Yeah, I hope so. And I don't know. Whatever. So that's it. We're remember, podcast at veganfreak.com. 267-295-1944. Go to the forums. I don't know.
Go look at the show notes, podcast.veganfreak.com.
And that's it. So you can always subscribe if you want. You get access to subscriber casts and a different special feed. And that's it. So why don't we roll some music here?
Okay.
Hopefully it'll work. Oh, yeah. No.
Oh, it worked a second ago. Why did it work before? Now it does not work.
You know, the person that wrote this program is going to get a very mean email from me. That's right, man. Where is it? Here it is. Okay, let's try this again. Ready? Different one. There we go. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. We got to work all this shit out. We're a mess. It's because my Mac went geriatric.
Yeah, and now we've had to set up everything on different computers, so...
It's a mess. It's a mess.
Yeah, now we still have to figure out the telephone so we can do interviews and...
Yeah, I know. I had to move to a different computer. I had everything set up the way I liked it, and I had to reset it up, and it's baffling to set up this. I had to set up separate little buses and all. It's a fucking... I never knew I'd become an audio engineer.
Well, there you go.
What was that?
I had an itch. My nose
You're
itched.
picking your nose.
I was not picking my nose.
I caught you picking your nose. It's like that Seinfeld episode.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we're done.
Bye.
Vegan.